Welcome to another edition of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. I work with technical professionals so they can present more effectively, especially in front of non-technical audiences. And you can learn more about it at teachthegeek.com. Again, that is teachthegeek.com. Today, my guest is Frank Agraz. In addition to working as a director of engineering, he's also president of the Illuminating Engineering Society. I had no clue there was such a society, and I certainly had no clue that lighting professionals existed. So I'm definitely going to be asking him more about that, and then also what he does in his day job and how public speaking has really helped him in his career. So welcome to Teach the Geek interviews, Frank.
Hey, thank you so much, Neil. Good to be here.
From the research I did on you, Frank, I saw that you got a degree in industrial distribution. I've never heard of such a degree in my life, so I'd be really helpful to explain what exactly is what is industrial distribution and what got you to study it.
Good question. So industrial distribution is in the College of Engineering. I graduated from Texas A&M. The short answer is being an ID major means you are a technical sales rep, basically. The ID program takes the foundations and foundational courses of engineering. So those first 2 years, you're going through all of the first 2-year engineering classes. Instead of being an electrical engineer or an ME or a ChemE for each of the traditional engineering paths, we now replace those upper level courses with business, negotiation, marketing, and so it's kind of a mini engineering foundation with an MBA. So we find ourselves a bunch of extroverted sales types, but instead of selling retail or paper clips, you're now selling more of the technical type of products and services.
Okay. What's the difference between industrial distribution and industrial engineering?
On the IE side of it, it is more of the traditional engineering path. So those junior and senior year courses, you would continue on with more of the engineering style foundations. It's more of a deeper dive into the traditional engineering path. So ID is relatively new. I believe it was established in the 1960s, I believe by Texas A&M. And now there are several universities out there that do carry the ID program. So it is a little offshoot of engineering. I actually started my path as thinking I was going to be an electrical engineer that freshman year, and there was a kind of we had an engineering fair where each of the colleges were presenting their different opportunities, and I quickly realized I did not want to be in a lab coat necessarily with that type of thing, and then the ID program really spoke to me, so I made the switch, and not really having a lighting specific focus, but once I got into the groove, lighting to me made sense as far as my career path.
Yeah, so that was the next question, Frank. How exactly did you get into lighting?
So it was just kind of pure random chance. As I found myself looking for career opportunities as I was about to graduate, I found myself with 3 opportunities. One was a lighting maintenance company. One was a kind of a Dunder Mifflin paper company, kind of crazy. And then I did have an offer at an industrial bearings distributorship. And back then I even thought about what's the most sustainable thing, and I thought light bulbs always burn out. So let's go into lighting. Let's see what's going on there. And so that's how it really got started. And much like a lot of folks in our industry, once you get into lighting, it's very hard to get out. And I mean that in a very loving, good way. Our folks, much like others, we're very passionate about what we do, and we find ourselves being attracted to either the art or the science of lighting, because it really is 2 different pieces. So when you say you're in lighting, it could mean a whole lot of things to a whole lot of different people, but that's what makes the Illuminating Engineering Society such a nice, unique area to come, because it does really focus on both the art and the science.
Man, Frank, you really are doing a great job of leading into my next question. So, when you talk about the lighting industry, like what kind of jobs can you possibly do in the lighting industry?
So when folks say, "Hey, I'm in lighting," one way to break that down is to understand the different how lighting flows, right? So on one side, I shouldn't say at the beginning, but on one area of it, you have the educational, the universities, all of the teachers. As an offshoot of that, you have the research and development. So just think of all of the entities. It could be the Department of Energy. It could be Pacific Northwest Labs. It could be the Rensselaer Institute, and all these folks who are developing the the bits and pieces and doing all the experimentation and the studies. From there, you have a product, right? So now you're in the manufacturing section. And so all the lighting manufacturers who create the products, who create the controls, who create all of the hardware and now software to get the job done. Once you've made the product, you have to educate people and support those who want to purchase. So they're business to business, right? You have a whole layer of manufacturers reps and agencies. You have distributors, and you have folks who are either selling product and or selling service from to businesses like school districts or hospitals, or it could be to end users of, let's say, an office building or a chain of Jack in the Boxes or whatever it may be. So lighting, another way to kind of spread it out is, are you on the new construction side of the business? So think architects, MEP firms, and those who are building new buildings or renovations from scratch. And then there's the existing building side of the equation, which is where I am. And now we're talking about retrofitting or upgrading a building that already has lights. They're already using the system, but in a quest to either save energy and or reduce their expenses, we now have an opportunity to revisit that 10, 15, 20-year-old lighting system and put in today's technology to improve the lighted environment.
Wow, it seems quite involved, and it also seems, well, it doesn't seem, but I mentioned in the intro that you work with the Illuminating Engineering Society. What got you involved with that group?
So as within any industry, especially getting to sales, I found myself really attracted to the nuts and bolts. As I was working with my customers, I find that in sales, right, there's the camp that is very involved on the relationship side, right? The dinners and the golf, and it's really getting to know the people, which is a very important part. But then the other side is the technical side. When you deal with something like lighting, for every drink at the bar or other corporate event, people are wanting to know the details about efficacy, about light levels, about lighting design, and does this lighting fixture, what are the bits and pieces? So I made myself learn the technical side of it. So again, getting back to my ID program at college, understanding, be able to learn and educate others and basically teach them how the system works, because it's all about understanding the different pros and cons of different systems. There's so many ways that you can go. And so when someone says, well, I want the best lighting system, well, what does best mean? Does best mean the lowest price? Does it mean the most savings? Does it mean the easiest to maintain? And so having those conversations with your customers is kind of what led me down this road to learning more about lighting, which leads me to your question, which is I got involved with the IES because the Illuminating Engineering Society really is that standards development organization that literally writes the book on lighting design and practice. So we have a lighting handbook that has been used for many, many years and has now since evolved into our lighting library, which is a collection of all of the recommended practice and documents, which is used by not only all of us within North America, but many places around the world. And so we are the lighting authority. We are the lighting source that people go to figure out how to design a space.
Wow, that seems a lot. It seems quite involved. But you're the president of the group currently. What are your plans as president of the group?
So the IES was established in 1906. I'm the 118th president of the society. It wasn't until 1947 when we issued our first lighting handbook and really sought to bring together those with lighting knowledge to benefit the public. That's really what we do. I started my IS career at the section level in Houston, Texas. I wanted to be able to network with those within my lighting community, start sharing ideas, learn about what's going on. The lighting industry has been very fast-paced in the last 20 years. We've had a lot of advancements in technologies. And so much like with computers and when TVs went from the old tubes to the flat screens, right, there's always this new iteration. And so many customers and folks who want good lighting are relying on us to help guide them into what is the best decision. So as I got more involved with the IS at the section level, I learned about this new world where we had this society level of leadership to guide all of the volunteers who are the ones that write all the documents. So we've got more than 7,000 members across the world. We have about 1,000 of those engaged in committees that get down to the very details of good lighting practice. So it could be lighting for roadways or tunnels or office lighting or museums. And each group is very focused on providing this documentation for anyone who wants to use it.
Nice. When I first heard of the society, my first inclination wasn't speaking. But then when I thought about it, I would think you would have to, at least some of you would have to be out there talking about this, because even when I mentioned in the intro, this wasn't even something that was even on my radar. And I doubted I'm a unicorn in that, thinking that is there a society for lighting professionals? But apparently, obviously there is, and you're the president of it. When I started this podcast or YouTube channel, Frank, it really was based on my own struggles having to speak in front of people. I used to work as an engineer in medical devices, and I had to give presentations on a monthly basis, and I was terrible at it at first. But I eventually realized that I wanted to get better, because I would get these questions during the presentations that I thought I had answered during the presentation, but because I didn't put things in a way that people could understand, I was now getting these questions. I was already sweating before I started the presentation. I was sweating during the presentation. Now I'm sweating after the presentation. Just a whole bunch of sweat, Frank. I was so tired of all the damn sweating.
Yeah, well, they say a couple things. Number one, the best way to learn is to teach, right? If you really want to absorb content, to teach and explain and educate others, you really have to go through the iteration. So if you can teach something, there's a good chance that you've learned it. To your point about the sweating, right? I think we may have heard this, that one of the greatest fears of everyone is speaking in public. It's not fear of heights or claustrophobia, it's speaking in public. And so coming from that sales cloth, but also coming from the technical understanding, it was just a natural evolution for me. I wanted to be able to absorb the technical and be able to kind of teach those who may be not involved in lighting every day. And so how do you take the difficult and explain it in a way that others understand? And that public speaking was just kind of a natural iteration, because what better way to let others know about who we are and how the things that we do can improve others' lives than to speak in public, whether it be at a lighting conference, whether it be within a smaller group of customers, right? If you're trying to do your day job and get folks to understand what's out there, or with folks like yourself. The IES has a lot of different um, constituencies. We have a lot of folks who are stakeholders within this environment. And so whether it be a university or a manufacturer or an engineer or a contractor or the general public, the IES is really here to spread the word that, or just to remind them really that every time you walk into a restaurant, to a hospital, every time you're taxiing down the runway at an airport, the lighting you see has, it's there for a reason, right? And so we're balancing energy savings and visibility and productivity. It's well-being, right? Because lighting is not just visible, it's the non-visual effects of lighting that we're now dealing with as well, which is a whole nother, seminar. But the point is we're trying to bring it all home and let people know that our lighting community is working to serve the greater public.
Yeah. And so when I mentioned that the idea that lighting isn't necessarily something that's on a lot of people's radars, and we need people like yourself and people also are members of IES to talk about it. It certainly is important. Is giving presentations or just public speaking in general something you've always been good at? And if not, what did you do to get better at it?
So there are folks who are just naturally gifted to right, like being the life of the party, right? If you just naturally have that cadence, I think it does come a little naturally to others. But for me, it was definitely a work in progress, right? You have something to say. How do you keep people's attention? How do you again disseminate the technical into a language that everyone can understand? And so for me, it's really about understanding who is your audience, what are they trying to get out of the presentation, because for whether they're paying or whether it's free, right? They're there listening to you. They want something out of this. So my job as a speaker is to understand why they're there, what is it they want to get out of the presentation, and then using my voice, my hands, my PowerPoint slides, or whatever it is as a way to communicate that information. And so make it pithy, make it funny, make it memorable, and hopefully they'll take away something.
Yeah. Do you have a process for putting your presentations together? And if so, what is it?
So the process of putting data information, it's kind of similar to what I was saying, right? Like, who's your audience? What is it you're trying to communicate? For me, fewer words on a slide is better. I like to show the visual. A lot of folks are very visual learners. And so I would rather put a photo or some sort of illustration or graphic and then let me speak to it. For those who are just getting into this presentation mode, there's a lot of rules of thumb, right? You should only have so many bullet points. You should have only so many words. What you don't want to do is to put, 120 words on a PowerPoint slide and then just start reading from it. That is the death kiss of people who they will not be interested in that. So put something on your slide that's going to be a little provocative, something that they look at it and then they want to know more. That's one of my keys, is make it just tempting enough to say, okay, that's interesting. Okay, Frank, what do you have to say about it? And that's when you speak to the slide, you're not reading from the slide. Big difference.
Oh, 100%. I'm a big fan of using images as opposed to a lot of text on slides too. And what it does is it does a couple of things. Well, firstly, for the presenter, it eliminates the crutch of reading the slides. So now you actually have to look at people. You don't have the ability of just looking at, you don't have the option of just looking at your slide, because what are you looking at? You're looking at a picture. So you better know what you're talking about. And then what it also does is for the audience, it eliminates the option of reading your slides. So now either they listen or they ignore you. And hopefully it's more of the former, less of the latter.
Right. Another trick I like to use is depending on the size of the audience. If I'm speaking to a room with, let's say, 10 or 15 people, I try to make it more interactive. Let's take advantage of the intimacy within the group, and let's make it where there's Q&A, right? The last thing I want to do is to speak for 45 minutes and just have them just staring at a screen. Sometimes one of the little tricks is you can, if you're not sure how interactive the audience is going to be, what you can do is you can put questions on a little index card and then put the questions around the table. And that way you're kind of preloading content for people to literally read the index card. And I mean, if they so choose, they can just like literally read the card back to me. Hey, Jerry, I'm so glad you asked about, average rated life. Let me tell you about it, right? And so give people an avenue to interact with the presenter. And if that little card gets you going, it does two things. It keeps the conversation focused, and it invites others to participate. That's what I'm going for.
Wow, that's an excellent idea. And when you said it, it actually reminded me of an event that I went to pre-pandemic, and they did exactly that. There were cards on the table with these questions, and I remember looking at it thinking, "What is this? What is this?" But then it kind of made sense once the presentation was done, and they asked us about those questions. I was like, "Oh, damn! I was supposed to be thinking about this before."
That's right. That's right.
They should have done a little better job of telling me that beforehand. Then I could have been thinking about it. But yeah, I think it's a great idea. I'm definitely gonna. I think I might use that. So when it comes to the presentations that you give, Frank, do you ever get nervous before them? And if so, how do you deal with your nerves?
So having a healthy dose of nervousness, I think, is always good. It's important to be confident in the content. Number one, do your homework, prepare your slides in advance, run through the overall, I would say the kind of the outline version of what you're going to say. And then really it boils down to practice. Look at yourself in the mirror when you're speaking. How do you present yourself? Are you standing up straight? Are you slouching? Are your hands in your pockets? I found that much of our conversation and communication with others is nonverbal, right? What you say is obviously important, but the backdrop of your slides or whatever content you're going to show is important. Simple things like eye contact with your audience. Connect with them. There may be 100 people in the room, but if every one of them thinks that you're speaking to them personally, that's the connection you want to make. And so as you go through the content and just be encouraged that people have come there to listen to you, right? They're rooting for you. They want to learn something. So if you can extract and hold on to that knowledge, you'll have the confidence to come in there. Again, it is important to practice your delivery. How fast are you speaking? If they give you 30 minutes for a conversation and you've got 20 slides, don't be 25 minutes into it and only be on slide 7, right? Pace yourself. Give enough leeway for that back and forth and that Q&A. And those little bits of professional delivery, I think, go a long way because it just seems natural. You're not rushing to finish the slides at the end. And so it comes with practice, right? But just keep on message, which is, why did they come to see me? And what is it that I can share in a way that's interesting?
I certainly take your point, Frank, about, there being 30 slides and you have 30 minutes to present and you're on slide 25 minutes in, you're only on slide 7 and you got to rush through the rest of the slides. And you're just in the audience is thinking, this was a waste of my time. I didn't get more than half of the presentation, really, because you had to rush through those slides. So, but if you had practiced beforehand to make sure that you paced yourself to make sure you're able to complete all the slides in the time that was allotted to you, I mean, then it's a win. You practiced, made sure that everything was presented in the best way that it could potentially be presented in, and the audience got everything that they wanted out of the presentation. And it just what's not to like about that? Oh yeah, that's just a pet peeve of mine. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
slide 5. You could have. Why the hell you spend more time on slide 5, man? Never got to slide 15. You know what I mean?
yeah. So one of the things I didn't really think about it till we started talking just now, but um, it's one thing to be a subject matter expert in one little area, but as you continue your path toward becoming a better and more effective speaker, push the boundaries of your own knowledge, right? If you know about lighting, but you don't necessarily know about EV charging stations or how to, bake a cake or whatever that other thing is, push yourself to those adjacent areas of subject matter and learn about that. And so you're now repeating the process of becoming an expert, learning by teaching. And if you can hone those presentation skills with another bucket of stuff that you've learned, it allows you to then refine your skills with a slightly different angle, maybe with a slightly different audience. So if that's your goal, right, keep refreshing the page with something slightly different, and it'll make you a better speaker.
Oh yeah, and it certainly what it'll also do is keep things interesting for you. If you're just talking
Yeah,
about the same thing over and over again, you might get bored of it. I mean, surely the people in the audience may want to hear what you have to say, but you may very well be bored with this particular topic. So I agree. If you are able to look at things in a different way, then it makes it more fresher for you, and then you're
yeah.
probably going to deliver it a lot better. And the people are going to, and the audience are going to appreciate it more. It's just another win-win. That's an excellent point, Frank. So this has been a really great conversation, Frank. Thank you so much for being a guest. How can people get in touch with you?
So on the IES side of it, ies.org is our website, the Illuminating Engineering Society. So that would be a good place to reach out. My day job, I work at ecoengineering.com, and we are a turnkey lighting retrofit solution provider who has been focusing on lighting for the last 30 years. We are in that existing building arena. So we're helping folks who already have a lighting system who want to upgrade and make it better. And talking about learning things new, right? Our company has actually moved into solar, EV charging, generators, and in other both energy conservation, but also energy generation that's sustainable. So that's a whole nother topic of conversation. But ies.org, that's a great place to start. You'll find me in the board of directors as president. My term ends at the end of June this year, which I will then roll off to a past president stage and roll in that capacity. So I appreciate your time. This has been great talking to your audience, and I appreciate you reaching out.
Oh, thank you. And everyone, that marks the end of another edition of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson, founder of Teach the Geek, and you can learn more about it at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Until next time, take care and stay safe. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.